Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to make over a few items and I'm going to start with this little table. And it is pretty rough at first glance and I almost threw it out. But I decided it just needed a little love. So I cleaned it up good and gave it a good sanding. And now I'm going to paint it. So I'm going to paint the legs in the color buttercream. And then I'm just going to use some brown wax on both of the tabletops. Now, some of these stains will come through, but with this darker wax, and I use a couple of coats of it, it will blend pretty good because here I'm using a coat of clear wax first. And that will just kind of even out the porosity of the wood. And then it makes it a lot less likely to grab the darker in places. Because even though I want this to be dark, I don't want it to grab in certain places where maybe the wood is more porous than others. So giving it a really good coat of the clear wax, and I did put it on pretty heavy, I think will help. So again, I just give both of the shelves a good coat of this, being careful not to get it on the legs or the little spindles because I'm going to be painting those. And then once I got it covered good with that, then I'm putting a good thick coat of the brown wax on. So I want to make sure that I get plenty on, and I'll rub it off really well. But again, I want plenty. And then once I did the first coat, I even went back and did another coat of the brown wax. And this is what it looked like. And I was pleased with how it turned out. Again, I didn't expect perfect, but it actually covered better than I thought it would. Now, my daughter likes this little table, and she is getting very, very close to moving out on her own. And we're just kind of collecting some things for her for when it does happen. But she liked this little table, but she said if I would do the wood color on the tops, and then do the legs in a color of white, then she would like it. And I think that's just what this needs. I don't know what your weather's been like, but for us here in Tennessee, the weather is so muggy hot right now. And so when I have to go outside and do something, it just doesn't take long for me to bring it back inside. It's just really, really hot. And I'm hearing that most of us are getting some form of that. Now I'm just taking my time and trimming out around that wood. I don't want to add, or I actually can't add any painter's tape because it has that waxy feel to it until it's had time to dry well and to cure well. Then my painter's tape won't stick to it anyway, so I just have to put in the time to just really be careful and trim out. And I even have to use a little brush in some areas. And once I get it covered, then I'm just going to take my little finger sander and do some light distressing on it. I just need a little bit. I don't want a whole lot on this piece, but I think it does need a little. And then once I'm done with this, then I will spray this entire thing with a couple of coats of a clear matte finish. And I think that really updated it, and now it will go with just about any way she decides to decorate. And I know that she wants more of a modern farmhouse style, so I think it's going to go really well. Now, I had this little Lazy Susan in my stash, and I wanted her to have some risers and things like that, and I think this little Lazy Susan will be even better. But of course, we don't want what's on top. It's not her initial. And and I just don't really care for the look. So I'm just going to completely sand this down. Then after I sanded it down, I did the same thing to this that I did with the tabletops. And I used some clear wax on it first. And now I'm using the brown wax. And with this one, I just needed one coat. But I covered it really well and then wiped it off really well. And that's all that I'm going to do this. I want to keep this one very simple so that she can use it just however she wants to use it. But it will go with whatever. And I think everyone needs just a very neutral piece like this to display on. And now I think it's much, much better than it was. Now for the next item, I had this little aluminum pitcher, and although I really do like these, they don't really go in modern farmhouse decor. So I would have liked to had another ironstone pitcher, but I really didn't want to part with any of mine. And she doesn't really care at all about that. She just wants the look. So I'm just going to clean this up with some alcohol to make sure that nothing stops my paint from sticking. And if you haven't tried that, alcohol is really good for removing any oily residue or even residue from your hands that might keep your paint from sticking. So I just clean that up good, and then I'm going to give it 2 coats of just a white semi-gloss or satin finish rather, spray paint. And then I'm just going to take some of the florals that I use in my house. She likes this kind of floral also. So I'm just going to cut it to fit in this and make a little farmhouse style arrangement. Now for those of you who don't know, there's some changes coming to my store. It won't affect my channel very much, except maybe positive changes, because although I won't be doing as much household type crafting, I'm going to do a lot more gardening type crafting, like birdhouses and things like that, or just anything that can be used even in a sunroom or something. So it's still going to be, I'm still going to be able to craft a lot of things. But my store is changing to include a lot of things that the landscapers, who are our biggest clients, can use, like shovels and rakes and gloves, tarps, grass seed, all kinds of things like that. I guess kind of like a mini co-op, but and emphasis on the word mini. But I do think we need that. And to be honest, we all know crafting is not anything that you're going to make a lot of money on. It's just something that we enjoy doing, and we, for me, I guess, support my habit. But I started out doing really, really well in my store. And I think, and I don't think it's because of COVID. I'm not real sure why, but things did slow down somewhat. And his landscaping business has grown by leaps and bounds. So it does make much, much more sense to use that space for something a little more profitable. The good news, though, is that I finally get a craft room at my house. So my husband's giving up his workout room so that I can have a craft room. And I'm going to have a lot more help at the shop. So I think that it's going to free me up to do more crafting and not have to do it so hurriedly when the customers are in and out. So I think overall it's going to be a very positive thing. And I'm very excited about the changes. So hopefully I'll be able to work harder at my YouTube channel now And I've actually been struggling to keep up because when his business is doing so well in its peak season, which it definitely is other than this heat wave we're having, then it just keeps me so busy that I barely have time to get a video out. So this is a picture that I had in the store, and I asked her if she liked it, and she said although she loves the wood, it's too much wood. So she's kind of telling me how that she wants these pieces, and that's very helpful to me. And I just happen to agree with everything that she's asked for with these, because I think that this piece does need some white. So I rarely tape things off. I usually just try to freehand it, but in this case it's going to be very easy to tape it off, and I'll get a much better, crisper finish. So I'm going to tape this off, and I'm going to sand the finish where these words are so that I make sure that there is no paint that has any raised look to it. I want this to be very smooth so that when I put a couple of coats of white on this, and I'm just going to use regular cotton white, but when I put a couple of coats on that, then I don't see any raised edges or any raised letters underneath rather. And then again, I'm going to give this 2 coats of the color cotton. And I wanted to say that just because I'm not going to be doing as much household decor or really much at all, because I'm going to be home more, then I'm going to be doing some household decor for my own house. And then we're going to be working on another project or 2, so I'll include you guys in those, and so you'll still get plenty of that kind of decor. I'm just going to have to really concentrate more on the other. And while my craft room has a good start already, I'm going to include you guys in the process of organizing it and things like that, and adding some decor. Some of this that I'm working on today may end up in my craft room temporarily, since Kaylee isn't ready to move out. I just think it's just as well used in there as to store it. So you'll see these pieces in my craft room when I get finished. Now this is one of my favorite scripture stencils, and I just love the font on it, and of course I love what it says, but it's going to fit really well on this, and so I'm going to stencil this on, and I'm just going to use some black Stays On ink and my brushes that I use for stenciling, which are actually makeup brushes, but I'm going to include, hopefully I'll find this stencil and include the link for it, and then also include the link for the ink and the brushes. Now obviously you could use paint for this, but if you've ever tried stenciling with ink instead, it's just so much easier, and you just get a much crisper finish. And if you use Stays On ink, then you can clear coat over it, and you don't have to worry about any runs as long as you let it dry, or anything bleeding rather, as long as you let it dry. Now you can use other inks. Sometimes I just use what I have on hand, and if I'm looking for a certain color and I don't have that, it stays on. But when I do that, I just have to make sure that when I put my clear coat over the top of it, that I don't brush that on, because even if you let it dry, most inks are going to bleed when you brush that clear coat on. So the way I do that is, and you don't even want to do a full coat of clear coat over those inks. So what I do is I just very lightly mist over the top. And then I let that dry, and then I very lightly mist over it again and let that dry, and then you can use a heavier coat. So again, just let that first coat, just very, very lightly mist it and let it dry first. And do that at least once, and then you can just go ahead and spray your full coverage coat. Again, I just love this stencil, and I guess you can tell I use it a lot. I don't always clean my stencils like I need to. When I do, every now and then, I'll just go through and clean them all with alcohol. Or if I need to change colors, obviously I need to do that first. Now this is the spare room to begin with. And this isn't a yellow color on the wall, but for some reason with this lighting, it really does look like it. Now I wanted one shiplap wall, so my husband is doing a shiplap wall on the main wall. And this is a small space, so I'm going to have to make it work. And I think that I can really be careful with how I use my space. And this will just give me an opportunity to create ways to store better. And again, I can include you guys in that process. But I wanted to start out with white on all the walls, and I'll have a clean slate. Now, I have a hang tag today, and this one is from Paula McGuire. She's a friend of mine, and she brought this by, and I absolutely love this. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I love the music behind it, and I'm not sure what she used there, if that's a napkin or if that's a rice paper, but it just shows the music behind it so well, and I think it's just so pretty. And then the back of this is cloth, and I love how she frayed the edges. It looks like this might be drop cloth of some kind, but I love this scripture stamp. And this hang tag is a very substantial size. I just think it's so pretty. Now here are some organizers that I had in my store, and they were actually galvanized look, and so I sprayed these with a copper finish spray paint, and now I'm going to give these a more authentic look. Those spray paints are great, but they're just not, they don't look exactly realistic. To me, they don't. So I'm going to use the copper patina paint, and I'm not gonna do full coverage on it. I'm just gonna very, very lightly add that. Now I will have to do full coverage on that bottom and actually do 2 coats, because I had forgotten that where I had it sitting to dry, I wasn't able to paint that bottom yet. But so the bottom is going to have a couple of good coats of this. But for this part, I'm just going to show you here. And I'm very lightly dry brushing some on. And then while it's wet, then I'm going to spray it with the green patina spray. And I just very lightly mist it, because less is more on this. It's very easy to get too much. But if you get too much, it's no big deal. You just kind of dab some more of this paint over it, and sometimes you'll get runs if you're not careful. And I just personally don't think the runs look authentic at all. So all you have to do is just put a little bit more of that paint. And again, this is the copper patina from Dixie Belle, and the green patina spray from Dixie Belle. But it will just almost change before your eyes. You will almost see it happening. And it just gives it such an authentic look and just such a pretty look. If you haven't ever used the patina paint, then I definitely recommend it. Now this is a different process than I generally use with this, because generally what you do is one full coat of the patina paint, and you let that dry well, and then you paint another full coat, and while that's wet, you add your patina spray. But because I already had a full coverage copper on this from the spray paint, then all I need to do is just kind of lightly dry brush over the top and then spray that on. You do need your paint to be wet for the spray to activate, and although I'm not putting this on heavy at all, it's still wet enough that I will get that reaction. So again, if you don't like the amount that you get, then you can always dry brush a little bit more of this over the top of it. And sometimes I'll even just kind of dab it on, and that will give it a better look. Now this is another organizer that I had at the shop, and it was also the galvanized, and I just never got around to painting it. And I'm going to do the same process on this. I've already spray painted it with a couple of coats of the copper spray paint. And now I'm just dry brushing the copper on and spraying and dabbing. You don't have to do the dabbing. I don't want so much of the specks as I do it to look more authentic. So, as you use this, you'll learn to just kind of play with it and get the look that you want. Now, I don't do a top coat on this because I find that this paint is very durable. So it doesn't seem to need a top coat. And I've had this little piece a long time, and not certain where I got it, but it's been a good little organizer for small things, and I definitely wanted to use this in my new craft area. And here you can see that I'm already getting a lot of that patina. I just love how this one turned out. I think I'm going to use it on my sewing table because I think that I'll find more little things that I need storage for there. Now this is the one area that I started in the store, and that little cart I got from Walmart, and also all of these containers. And I decided also the little bookshelf. What I did in the store was just I kept bringing these little containers back and forth to a shelf that was set up to see what was going to fit. So I'm going to be able to fit 10 of the small ones in the top, and 5 of the larger ones in the middle, and 5 larger ones on the bottom. That is when Walmart gets those back in, because I cleaned them out, so I'm having to wait to get those. I tried to order them online, but wasn't able to find them. Again, I'll share the process as I go. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.